Hi. One of the biggest wastes of people's times in any organisation are unproductive meetings. In fact, according to theMuse.com, around $37 billion per year is wasted in unproductive meetings in the US. Phenomenal number. There are around 25 million meetings per day in the US. Around 25 million meetings per day. That's a massive number of people who are just sat in meetings. And the question is, are they productive? Around 15% of an organisation's collective time is spent in meetings, and this is a figure that's increased every year since 2008. And around 35% of middle managers' time is spent in meetings. For senior managers, it's as much as 50%, half of their time. And what's even worse is that around 4 hours per week by office people is spent on preparing for status update meetings. 4 hours per week just preparing to go into meetings before you've even attended the meeting itself. And ultimately, around 67%, around two-thirds of all meetings are considered a failure by executives. So we spend all of this time in meetings, all of this time preparing for meetings for them to be a failure. That is really a waste. So leading lean by living lean is all about what can you do about this? Well, there's 10 golden rules, if you will. First one is before scheduling a meeting, first consider whether it's absolutely necessary. Is it a knee-jerk reaction? Are we having it to talk about a problem without really any structure? So really think about, is this meeting necessary? Secondly, ensure that the meeting is part of a process. Often people don't really consider meetings part of a process, but that's effectively what they are. There's a process, and within that, your meeting is a junction point, if you will, whereby decisions are made. There can be some meetings which are about communication or informing people, or consultation. Again, important types of meetings, but again, part of a process. They've got to be the reporting or information of the outcome of something or consultation before decisions are made. So really make sure they're part of that process. And then aim to schedule shorter meetings that are timed to meet the objectives, not arbitrarily set. This is particularly an issue now that we schedule most of our meetings using Outlook or other similar online tools, which set increments automatically of 30 minutes, 60 minutes, etc. So really plan out the meeting and say, how long do I really need for this meeting? And if it's 20 minutes or 45 minutes or 70 minutes, use the appropriate time. And then, of course, set clear objectives and expectations for the outcome and participation of the meeting. Who needs to be there? What's a quorum? Which people need to be there to make a decision? And how do we avoid just having lots of people in because we're scared of leaving people out? Who actually has to be there? And then the fifth one is send a pre-read or preparation materials in advance, normally at least 2 working days ahead. Really important to make sure that people have the opportunity to pre-read so that you can really focus on making the decisions or having the conversations that are needed. Number 6, start and end on time. Showing respect for people's time will ultimately be reciprocated. It might take a little bit of time to get that if the culture in your organisation is not like that. But once people get used to the fact that your meetings start and end on time, they'll start to respect that. And then number 7, avoid monologues, be brief and engage all participants. This links a lot to the pre-read. If we've got the pre-read, everybody understands the context, you can try and avoid this. But really avoid monologues. Long explanations or justifications, often aren't adding value. So let's try and cut those out. Number 8, stay focused, moving tangential discussions to offline discussions or an alternative meeting. Don't let people hijack your meeting for their own agenda. Number 9, capture decisions and actions. Might sound simple, but so many meetings happen with people coming out saying, well, what did we agree? What was the actions? Who was the owner? Make sure it's really clear. What's the action? Who's the owner? What's the due date? And make sure you distribute that as confirmation as shortly as possible after the meeting. And then finally, make sure we follow up on those actions until they're completed. Might mean that you have check-in meetings to do that, but ideally try and do that offline and just make sure that they're completed. And then, of course, you can always have a kind of a finalization meeting to really consolidate that. So those are kind of the 10 golden rules. And one of the things that really helps with the planning and preparation of a meeting and the follow-up is the terms of reference. And what you'll see here on the screen is an example of a terms of reference. And it's very simple. It's broken out into when will the meeting be? How long's required? Is it one-off? Where's it held? Is it virtual or in person? What type of meeting is it? Is it focused on growing the business? Is it governance? Is it problem solving? Who should be there? What is a quorum? There's no point having a meeting if it's not got the right people in. And if people send delegates, that delegate should be delegated to make a decision. That's really, really important. What are the objectives of the meeting? What does success look like? What are the inputs? What's needed as a input data or input information to be able to have a successful meeting? And what are the expected outputs of the meeting? Then what's the actual agenda? How will you schedule the meeting? How will you actually go through the meeting in a logical format? What are the KPIs of the meeting? What measures success of the meeting? And then finally, what are the meeting rules? What's the conduct that's expected in the meeting? How should people behave? Should mobile phones be turned off, laptops shut, etc. So hopefully this gives you some good insight into how you can make your meetings far more effective. Remembering that the first rule is if you don't need the meeting, don't have it.